Okay, so I think I know where we are. I'm gonna be kind of pacing today, so all right. Okay, so here we go. Just to kind of get us back in the frame of mind. Remember, there are 3 acts in Our Town, and the first act is daily life. So there's there's not a lot of drama in the first act, except for possibly Simon Stimson. Everybody's concerned about him because he's got issues, got some problems, and likes to drink, okay? Other than that, it's all pretty even keeled. Y'all, the second act that we're going to get into is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's love and marriage. And one of the reasons I enjoy talking about it, not because I'm a romantic, but because the characters who are figuring out that they are in love and then ready to get married are not too much older than y'all. So it really kind of emphasizes how some things change, some things stay the same, and we'll talk about that, okay? All right, so I'm thinking we probably need to pick up where Dr. Gibbs says, let's see, tomorrow's your payday, you can count on it. Now, let me make sure I got all my people. Who is George? Okay, good. Who is Dr. Gibbs? I feel like Nicholas was somebody. Okay, good. David from the back is Dr. Gibbs. And Nicholas, were you Mr. Webb? Okay. Who was Mrs. Webb? Awesome. And who was Emily? Trinity. Good. And I need a Mrs. Soames, new character. Elaine, have you been reading?
I'm Miss Gibbs.
You're Miss Gibbs. Okay, so Anaya, you're going to be Miss Soames. Okay? All right. And if I'm missing somebody, I'll pick it up later. We are on, I think, page 20, right? Yes, yes. What part of the page, y'all?
I think right here.
All right, kind of in the middle. So look for when Doc Gibbs says, let's see, tomorrow's your payday. All right, Doc Gibbs, let's pick up there.
Let's see, tomorrow's your payday. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca will feel she ought to have some more, too. Wonder what could have happened to your mother. Choir practice never was as late as before.
It's only 8:30, Paul.
I don't know why she's in that old choir. She hasn't any more voice than an old crow. Traipsing around the streets at this hour of night. Just about time you retire, don't you think?
Yes, Paul.
Now, George is going to get on the ladder because he's going to go up to his upstairs bedroom, and we know there's a window there. We have to imagine it, of course. And then the women are leaving choir practice. So, here's a new character, Miss Soames.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster.
I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper.
My, it's late.
Good night, Irma.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it? Merle Webb, look at that moon, will you? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Potato weather for sure.
Naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of the others, but now we're alone. Really, it's the worst scandal that was ever in town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Now, Luella.
What, Julia? To have the organist of the church drink and drunk year after year, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about the troubles he's been through. And Dr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him on there in his job, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not to notice it.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have. It doesn't happen anywhere near so often. My, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. I better hurry. Those children will be sitting up till all hours. Good night, Luella.
All right, so everybody's real concerned about this Simon Stimson character, right? Okay, so Miss Gibbs is, well, actually, we're not quite there yet. Go ahead, sorry. Miss Gibbs, can
Can you get home safe, Luella?
It's brightest day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at the window now. You think we've been at a dance the way men folk carry on.
And finally, Miss Gibbs makes it
Well,
home. Yeah.
well, we had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Why, Frank, it ain't any later than usual.
And you stopping at the corner to gossip with a lot of fans.
Now, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come out and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. Heliotrope.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? What did you do all the time I was away?
Okay, so heliotrope, I don't think we have it here because I garden a little bit and I've never seen heliotrope, but evidently it's something that grows in New Hampshire, probably along the East Coast, and it is most fragrant at night. So you have this gorgeous moon. Hope, why are you laughing at me? For my virtual kids, some of my yearbook kids are in here in the back and they're making fun of me. I just want you to know that. All right. So anyway, heliotrope is really fragrant at night. So you got the beautiful moon, you got the smell of the flowers, and it's just a gorgeous night. You know, you have Emily who says things like, "Oh, isn't the moon terrible?" But what she really means is like wonderful. Okay. And I got to tell you, I want to say it was in second hour. I had Emily Langley was reading for Mrs. Gibbs, and Charlie Martin, I know you know Charlie, was reading for Doc Gibbs, and he says something in his thick, like he even puts on a thick more southern, accent reading, and he says something about gossiping with a lot of hens, and it was kind of funny because at that point, Emily comes out with, "I need a divorce," which I thought was kind of funny. I guess you had to be there. All right, anyway, go ahead.
Well, I read as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there's something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson far gone, was he?
Worse than I've ever seen him. How'll that end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
I guess I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anybody in this town. Some people ain't made for small town life. I don't know how that'll end, but there's nothing we can do but just leave it alone. Come get in.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
I think it's my duty to make plans for you to get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, well, I'm going to insist on it.
No, Julia, there's no sense in going over that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Come on, Julia, it's getting late. First thing you know, you'll catch a cold. I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for a while anyway. No, start getting upstairs.
Oh dear, there's always so many things to pick up, seems like. You know, Frank, Miss Fairchild always locks her front door every night. All these people up that part of town do.
They're all getting acidified. That's the trouble with them. They haven't gotten nothing fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
All right, interesting. So they don't lock their house at night, which is probably not something we'd feel comfortable with, okay? So, all right, George is on top of the ladder, which means he's in his upstairs room and he's doing his homework or looking at the moon or something. And Rebecca, the little sister, is going to come kind of try to crowd him and look at the moon herself. And, like a big brother, he's kind of, annoyed by this. So, go ahead.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window. You're always spoiling everything.
Well, let me look just a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? Do you? I think maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer, and there will be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting near, the guys that sit up all night with telescopes would see it first, and they'd tell about it. It'd be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out. No, there's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. And here comes Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed. James, you're going to be Constable Ward, okay? All right, Mr. Webb.
Good evening, Bill.
Evening, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yeah.
All quiet tonight?
Simon Simpson is rolling around a little. Just saw his wife moving out to hunt for him, so I looked the other way. There he is now.
Now, here's Simon Stimson, who is in his cups, as they say, right? And he is kind of, like weaving and like definitely unsteady on his feet. And they're worried about him and they want to make sure he makes it home okay, right? But when they even get up close to him and they ask him direct questions, he just kind of looks at him and then makes his way, and they just kind of shake their head because what are you going to do about that, right? Go ahead.
Good evening, Simon. Town seems to have settled down for the night pretty well.
Still you.
Good evening. Yep, most of the town settled down for the night. Simon, I guess we better do the same. Can I walk along a ways with you?
And Simon just kind of moves along down the road. So he says,
Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, he's seen a peck of trouble, one thing after another. Oh, Bill, if you see my boy smoking cigarettes, just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you, Bill.
I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Leastways, not more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Well, good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know, I just can't sleep yet, Papa. The moonlight's so wonderful. And the smell of mist gives heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Yes. Having any troubles on your mind, have you, Emily?
Trouble. Papa, no.
Well, enjoy yourself, but don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
Okay, so let me remind y'all that we've got a microcosm, and these characters represent humans, everywhere, really. And there are people in this world, in fact, there are quite a few people in this world who, for whatever reason, can't seem to grasp happiness. They are sad or lonely or depressed, and we don't necessarily know why, and maybe they don't even know why. And that's what Simon Stimson kind of represents in this play. I mean, he drinks, but the drinking is a symptom of some deeper sadness. So not everything in life is, lovely. And Simon Stimson kind of reminds us of that, okay? Now, Rebecca's going to tell George an interesting little story about this letter. Go ahead.
I never told you about that letter Jane Crawford got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter on the envelope. Address was like this. It said, Jane Crawford, the Crawford Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What's funny about that?
But listen, it's not finished. The United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
Where do you know?
And the postman brought it just the same.
Where do you know?
That's the end of the first act, friends. You can go and smoke now, those that smoke, because, literally, everybody smoked back then, okay? All right, so before you turn that page, you want to make a note of this, okay? So this little envelope, it seems like a really kind of minor detail, even though it's a little bit odd, right? But it's one of those moments in the play where we are directly reminded of the microcosm, okay? Because the envelope says Jane Crawford Farm, Grover's Corners, county of whatever it is, New Hampshire, yada, yada, yada. And George is like, well, okay, that's no big deal. And she said, but wait, not finished yet. Then it goes on to say the United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. Okay, so I think the idea here is that he's taking one individual in her place in the world, right? And he's taking that one human being, and from that point, enlarging it to where it's her place in probably the largest thing imaginable, which is what?
The universe?
Nope.
The
Mind of God?
The mind of God, which is pretty awesome. Okay? Pretty awesome. All right, good. I don't know exactly what it means, but I like it. I like it a lot. All right, go to Act 2. So, Act 2, guys, jot this down. It's 3 years later, which means it's in what year? 1904. Good. All right, good. So the tables and chairs, the 2 kitchens are going to still be on the stage. The ladders and the little bench have been pulled back, okay? And the stage manager is very good about reminding us of how much time has gone by. He is omniscient, after all. 3 years have gone by. Yes, the sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rains have brought down some of that dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already, and a number of people who thought they were right young and spry have noticed they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without their heart fluttering a little. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, mountains got bit away a few fractions of an inch. Millions of gallons of water went by the mill, and here and there a new home was set up under a roof. Almost everybody in the world gets married. Know what I mean? In our town, there aren't hardly any exceptions. Most everybody in the world climbs into their grave married. The first act was called Daily Life. This act is called Love and Marriage. And there's another act coming after this. I reckon you can guess what that's about. Which, of course, is what? Death, yeah. So we have 3 acts that mimic the stages of life, right? Okay, because in life, you got youth. You guys are enjoying that right now. You got the middle age years, which I am deeply ensconced in as we speak, okay? And then, of course, we got the older years as well. And 3 is kind of a sacred number, right? So there's balance there. So 3 acts to the play. So it's 3 years later. It's 1904. It's July 7th, just after high school commencement. That means graduation. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married. Wow. Soon as they've passed their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, looks like they suddenly feel themselves fit to be married. So, of course, we got to pause and talk about this for a minute.
Imagine learning Cicero's orations and then being like, yeah, I can get married now. Like, what?
Yes, exactly. He's being funny there. It's like, well, okay, what do Cicero, who is a philosopher, right? What do his speeches and geometry have to do with being ready, to be married, okay? But this is kind of how it was back then. I mean, my folks got married in the 1940s. Folks had me in their 40s, so we have long generations of my family. But my mom turned 18 in July after in July after graduation. Her first date with my dad was July 4th, and y'all, they were married on September 1st. What? Okay, super, super fast courtship, right? But that's, kind of the way things were often back then. So y'all are a year and 3 months away from graduation? Yes? Is that right? Did I do my math right? You gonna be ready for marriage after graduation next year?
Absolutely not.
Mallory, Hope? Y'all ready to get married back there? Mallory, you still dating Stuart?
Oh my God, Parker.
A simple yes or no will do.
Yes, Miss Parker.
Okay, thank you. All right, I knew they were gonna date. They've had eyes for each other since they were like
Miss
soft.
Parker.
Okay, sorry. Too much? All right, I'll stop. Okay, so anywho, yeah, these kids graduate and it's time to settle down. It's not really like that anymore, okay? And that's a good thing.
Weddings are expensive.
Do what?
Weddings are expensive.
Yeah, but weddings weren't expensive like that back then. Even up through my childhood, it was starting to change, about the time I got married, but even through, my growing up, my siblings all got married at the church they were raised in, and the reception was in the fellowship hall, and they had punch, and it was not alcoholic. And they had like those buttery mints and a bowl of peanuts and slam bam. That was it. It was done. It was pretty dang cheap. By the time I got married, I at least talked my parents into like having the reception at a local restaurant where I had worked. And they wouldn't go for the open bar. But hey, we made a compromise. People got to pay for their own alcohol. It was beautiful. All right. So anyway, let's see. So, okay, it's early morning, only this time it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs' garden and Mrs. Webb's here drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines drenched. All yesterday over there on Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown along. May begin again any minute. There, you can hear the 5:45 train for Boston. Now, Miss Webb and Miss Gibbs are going to come down and they're going to start breakfast just like they did in Act 1. There's Miss Gibbs and Miss Webb come down to make breakfast just as though it were an ordinary day, which is our first clue that it's not an ordinary day, okay? I don't have to point out to the women in my audience that those ladies they see before them, both of those ladies cooked 3 meals a day. One of them for 20 years and the other for 40. No summer vacation. They brought up 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never had a nervous breakdown. which is saying something. Cause I'm thinking if I had to cook 3 meals a day and be, you know, a housewife when cooking and cleaning and ironing was like real tough. This is before washing machines, okay? If I had 20 years of that, you might as well just lock me away.
So
You know what I'm saying?
Are
What?
they not the same age though?
No, they're not. One of them must have started their family later. Yeah, okay? All right, so here comes Howie Newsom. Now, once upon a time we had Howie Newsom. Who is that? Ryan, I feel like you had a part.
I was Howie Newsom.
Oh, okay, Ryan, you gonna be Howie. And, let's see, Patrick, you're gonna be Cy Crowell. That's Joe Crowell's little brother who now has the paper route. And remember, Joe's the guy that died in what war? World War I, that's right. All right, here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk. There's Cy Crowell delivering the papers like his brother before him. So let's pick up with Cy saying hello to Howie. Go ahead.
Morning, Howard.
Morning, Si. Anything in the papers I ought to know?
Nothing left except for losing about the best baseball pitch Rovers Corners ever had. George Gibbs.
Reckon he is.
He can hit and run bases too.
Yep, mighty fine ball player. Well, Bessie, I guess I can stop and talk if I have the mind to.
I don't see how he could give up a thing like that and just get married. Would you, Howie?
Can't tell, Si. Never had no talent that way.
All right, Constable Warren's gonna come in. Ooh, I don't know that I have a Caitlin, read for Constable Warren.
Seeing if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood, river's been rising all night.
Cy Crowell's all worked up here about George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Yes, sir, that's the way it goes. Back in '84, we had a player, even George Gibbs couldn't touch him. Name of Hank Todd went down to Maine and became a Parson.
Parson, by the way, is a preacher. Go ahead.
Wonderful ball player, Howie. How does the weather look to you?
Oh, tain't bad. Think maybe it'll clear up for good.
Good morning, Howie. Do you think it's gonna rain again?
Morning, Miss Gibbs. It rained so heavy, I think maybe it'll clear up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
I'm gonna have a house full of relations, Howie. Looks to me like I'll need 3 of milk and 2 of cream.
My wife says to tell you we both hope they'll be very happy, Miss Gibbs. No, they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. Tell your wife I hope she gets there to the wedding.
Yes, she'll be there. She'll be there if she can.
Now, he's gonna move over to Mrs. Webb's house. Go ahead. I think it's Howie morning, Miss Webb. Ron. You see where it says morning, Miss Webb?
Morning, Miss
Yeah.
Webb.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Newsom. I told you 4 quarts of milk, but I hope you can spare me another.
Yes, I'm in the 2 of cream.
Will it start raining again, Mr. Newsom?
Well, just saying to Miss Gibbs as how it may lighten up. Miss Newsom told me to tell you how we hope they'll both be very happy, Miss Webb. No, they will.
Thank you, and thank Mrs. Newsom, and we're counting on seeing you at the wedding.
Yes, Miss Webb. We hope to get there. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Bessie.
All right, now Doc Gibbs and his wife are going to have this little conversation about the fact their son's getting married, and guess what? He's awfully young. Go ahead.
Well, Ma, the day has come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't you say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
The groom's up shaving himself. Only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. Every now and then he says, I do, to the mirror, but it don't sound convincing to me.
I declare, Frank, I don't know how we get along. I've arranged his clothes and seen to it that he puts warm things on. Frank, they're too young. Emily won't think of such things. He'll catch his death of cold within a week.
I was remembering my wedding morning, Julia.
Now don't start that, Frank Gibbs.
I was the scariest young fellow in the state of New Hampshire. I thought I made a mistake for sure, and when I saw you coming down the aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. But the only trouble was that I'd never seen you before. There I was in a congregational church marrying a total stranger.
Wow. Okay, so what do we find out about this couple?
Is it arranged?
An arranged marriage, y'all. And it was one of the like old-fashioned kind where you don't even necessarily see each other or meet until the actual wedding, which, by the way, is the basis of a reality show now. Let me think. What is it?
Married at First Sight.
Married at First Sight. Has anybody watched that before?
Absolutely not.
Yes. So, and some of those couples actually work out. It's kind of strange. Caitlin, I've known since you were a baby. Known you since you were a baby. What kind of person do you think your parents would pick out for you to date and potentially marry?
I don't know.
I bet your dad would scare the bejesus out of any potential suitors. Am I right? Probably so. Yes. So, do you think you would be happy with someone your parents picked out for you?
No.
Maybe, but you're open. You're open to the idea. Aiden, you got a grin on your face. I can see it through that mask. What about you? Or would you be happy with someone your dad or folks picked out for you?
Maybe.
Maybe. Ooh, you guys are open-minded. I like this. Maybe I'll see you on an episode of Married at First Sight in 10 years, huh? All right, y'all are much more open to that than my earlier classes were. Madeline's like, absolutely not.
Listen, my dad's 72. I don't know who he would pick for me. I don't know who he would think would be appropriate to marry me.
Oh my. Girl, we need to talk, because my parents were older when I was in high school too, which did allow me to get away with a lot. Because by the time I came along, they were just
No,
tired.
that's exactly how it is for me.
They were
7
just
others.
flat tired. Okay, anyway, that's another story. So, let's see. I lost my place, but I'll catch up. Y'all can pick up where we left off.
And how do you think I felt? Frank, weddings are perfectly awful things. Farces, that's what they are. Here, I've made something for you.
Why, Julia, I see French toast.
Tain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard a lot of the hours struck off.
Yes, I get a shock every time I think of George setting out to be a family man. That great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so terrifying in the world as a son. The relation of father and son is the darndest awkwardest.
Well, mother and daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
They'll have a lot of troubles, I suppose, but that's none of our business. Everybody has the right to their own troubles.
Yeah, hang on. I know. I keep talking through this, but I just have to slow it down just a bit. So, let me just remind y'all, and y'all are definitely at that point in your lives where you're wanting to be independent, and some of y'all have more independence than others, and you're going to screw up. You can be a great kid, but you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to make some bad decisions, and it's really hard as a parent. You know, my kid's 20, but he thinks he's like 30, all right? It's really hard to watch him screw up and to like not try to interfere. One of the hardest things I think a parent can do is let your kid make mistakes and, pay for the consequences. Let them pick themselves back up and learn from it and try to move on, right? So that's probably where you are with your folks who want to protect you, but they got to kind of let go and let you have your own troubles, as Doc Gibbs would say. All right, go ahead, Miss Gibbs.
Yes, people are meant to go through life 2 by 2. Tain't natural to be lonesome.
Julia, do you know one of the things I was scared of when I married you?
Oh, go along with you.
I was afraid we wouldn't have material for conversation. Morin lasts us a few weeks. I was afraid to run out and eat our meals in silence. That's a fact. Well, you and I have been conversing for 20 years now, without any noticeable barren spells.
Well, good weather, bad weather, tain't very choice, but I always find something to say. Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No, only day of the year Rebecca hasn't been managing everybody's business up there. She's hiding in her room. I got the impression she's crying.
Lord sakes, this has got to stop. Rebecca, come and get your breakfast.
Now, George is the one that comes barreling downstairs. He's in a great mood, and he's going to make a joke about having only so many hours to live, right? So, George.
Good morning, everybody. Only 5 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where are you going?
Just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
Now, George, you put on your overshoes. It's raining torrents. You don't go out of this house without you're prepared for it.
Oh, Ma, it's just a step.
George, you'll catch your death of cold and cough all through the service.
George, who's your mother tells you?
I love that they're still parenting him, and he's literally 5 hours away from like adulting in a big way, okay? The other thing is that I wanted to point out is that if he decides to go see Emily on the morning of their wedding, isn't there something like wrong with that?
It's bad luck to see.
It's bad luck for a bride and groom to see each other on the day of their wedding before the actual ceremony. So it's customary to keep those two apart, all right? And you know that somewhere through the years, one too many bridegrooms got nervous and saw their bride and, were like, gotta go, and bailed. Or maybe the other way around, right? So finally, at some point, the old folks said, ooh, we better start keeping these people apart because folks get nervous, right? Okay, go ahead, Miss Gibbs.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers, but while you're in my house, you're living wisely, thank you. Maybe Miss Webb isn't used to the callers at 7 in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee first.
Be back in a minute.
Now, he's going to go over, and Miss Webb's not going to be real excited to see him. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mother Webb.
Goodness, you frightened me. Now, George, you can come in a minute out of the wet, but you know I can't ask you to come in.
Why not?
George, you know as well as I do, the groom can't see his bride on his wedding day, not until he sees her in a church.
That's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that superstition, do you?
There's a lot of common sense in some superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, George, and you don't want to be the first fly in the face of custom.
How is Emily?
She hasn't waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
No wonder. We were up till all hours sewing and packing. Now I'll tell you what I'll do. You sit down here a minute with Mr. Webb and drink this cup of coffee. And I'll go upstairs and see she doesn't come down and surprise you. There's some bacon too. But don't be long about it.
So she's going to leave George and his future father-in-law alone, and they're sitting there over coffee, and it's kind of like this. Awkward, isn't it? Okay. So finally, Mr. Webb breaks the silence. Go ahead.
Well, George, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, you see, on our wedding morning, a girl's head's about to be full of clothes and one thing and another. Don't you think that's probably it?
Yes. I never thought of that.
A girl's apt to be a mite nervous on her wedding day.
I wish a fella could get married without all that marching up and down.
Every man that's ever lived has felt that way about it, George. But if it hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who build up weddings, my boy. For a while now, the women have it all their own. A man looks pretty small at a wedding, George. All those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure that the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
But you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Oh yes. Don't you misunderstand me, my boy. Marriage is a wonderful thing. And don't you forget that, George.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Well, you see, I'd been to college and I'd taken a little time to get settled, but Miss Webb, she wasn't much older than what Emily is. Oh, age hasn't much to do with it, George. Not compared with other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
Oh, I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was thinking the other night of some advice my father gave me when I got married. Charles, he said, Charles, start out early showing who's boss. He said, best thing to do is to give an order, even if it don't make sense. Just so she'll learn to obey. And he said, if anything about your wife irritates you, her conversation or anything, just get up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her, he said. And, oh yes, he said, never let your wife know how much money you have. Never.
Wow. Okay, ladies, so let's get this straight. So he's telling his future son-in-law, here's what you gotta do. Okay, this is the advice that I had, and it is give her an order. Doesn't matter if it even makes sense. She just needs to learn how to obey.
What? That's his daughter.
I know, right? Okay, second thing. If anything about her irritates you, just leave. Just leave the house, right? And finally, never let her know how much money you have. All right. Well, to George's credit, he cuts in with...
Well, Mr. Webb, I don't think I could.
I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been happy ever since. And let that be a lesson to you, George. Never to ask advice on personal matters. George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
All right, so he abruptly changes the subject, which kind of throws George, but here's the point, and it's very subtle, okay? So in a humorous way, Thornton Wilder is telling us what he thinks are the ingredients to a good marriage. And what are those ingredients?
Not demanding things of your
There you
wife.
go. A partnership. What else? Trust.
And telling your wife how much money you have.
Communication. Right. A partner. Exactly. And so he says, look, I took the opposite of my father's advice and I've been happy ever since. So in a really kind of humorous but subtle way, we get some of the ingredients to a good marriage, even now, 120 years after the play is set, right? Okay. So, now George is thrown by the chicken question. George.
What? Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Uncle Luke's never been much interested, but I thought,
A book came into my office the other day, George, on the Philo system of raising chickens. I want you to read it. I'm thinking of beginning in a small way in the backyard. I'm going to put an incubator in the cellar.
Charles, are you talking about that old incubator again? I thought you two'd be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to give the boys some good advice, I'll go upstairs and leave you alone with them.
Yeah, he said that bitingly, which means he's a little put out with her for leaving the two of them alone. Evidently, he and George have not really gotten to know each other one-on-one, right? So it's super awkward. Go ahead.
George, Emily's got to come downstairs and eat her breakfast. She sends you her love, but she doesn't want to lay eyes on you. Goodbye.
And she, like, actually pulls him up. So George's like, okay. And he says goodbye kind of in a bewildered way, right? And he leaves, leaving the two Webbs together. Mr. Webb.
Myrtle, I guess you don't know about that old superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the cavemen, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law on the day of the wedding, or near it. Now remember that.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Miss Webb. Now, I have to interrupt here again. You see, we want to know how all this began, this wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like that begin. You know how it is. You're 21 or 22 and you make some decisions and then whoosh, you are 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years and that white-haired lady at your side's eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? Now, jot this down. Very key idea here, okay? You know, this is a play about life, okay? Well, one of the things I think it wants us to realize is that in life, little moments, you know, little decisions often place us on a path that there's no way that we could have foreseen, right? It's the little moments that we often don't even realize are happening at the time that set us on a course that determines the shape of our life. Now, you guys have big decisions coming up, right? Y'all got to decide where you're going to go to school. And that's coming up. You need to be thinking about that, right? And, you know, where you decide to go to college may very well determine where you get a job and where you settle down, right? Those are big decisions. We get the importance of those, okay? But sometimes the things that kind of point us in a direction are really small. And it's hard to know their significance in the moment, right? Let me give you a, for instance, little anecdote, okay? So, let's see. My senior year in college, I was just about to start student teaching. So, January of my senior year in college, I was dating a guy that I've been dating for a while, okay? And I had a friend that I had met through my roommate. In fact, he was better friends with her and her boyfriend. He was a bartender at the restaurant where my roommate was working, okay? And we all decided to go out one night. So it's me, it's the fella I was dating, and it's my roommate and her boyfriend. And then this other guy who is majorly like the fifth wheel, okay? So we go out and we're visiting and having a good time, and I realize this guy is comfortable in like any situation, okay? He didn't know he was the fifth wheel. I mean, he was just super personable, and I didn't know him really, really well, right? But I had met him before, okay? And so we get back to my apartment, and he says, I don't have my car, someone's going to drive me home. And at the time, his mother lived like a block away from me, and I had met her because she was a teacher actually here at Byrd, okay? And so I said, look, you know, you live down the street, you can hoof it. He says, no, I got my own place. I really do need a ride home, okay? So I looked at my boyfriend and I said, I'll take him home. Do you want to ride with us? He made the mistake of saying, no, I'll stay here, okay? So I get in the car with this fella, and we start driving to his house, and we pull up into the driveway, and he lays some lines of poetry on me, because at the time he was taking a poetry class. I hate to say that I fell for it, but I probably did. And then he says, I've had a crush on you since summer. Now, it's January, right? So I played it cool. I was like, okay, I guess I'll think about that, right? And he gets out, nothing happens, he gets out, yada, yada, yada. I go back to my place, right? And of course I proceed to like think on this for a while. And I think on it, and I think on it, and think on it some more. And I finally realized that if I'm thinking about this guy, I really need to probably get rid of the other. And I do, and then, you know, a year and a half later, we got married, and we've been married for like 28 years. Okay? So let's examine the little moments that we did not realize were going to set us along this path. Okay? First off, the boyfriend that I had at the time, he was kind of an ass. He was kind of an ass, okay? He was really nice to everybody. Like, he was really nice to me, but treated everybody else really badly. He was a poet. He was very condescending and whatnot. So he's a New York Times bestselling author right now, but I'm, you know, whatever. I'm all happy for him and everything. But, so, like, I let him go, and one moment that started that whole pathway was when this poor fella decided he wasn't going to ride with us. Okay, he should have gone on the ride with us, and probably Rob wouldn't have confessed his, you know, crush or whatnot. Secondly, he didn't have to walk home. I had to like physically I didn't put him in the car, right? But drive him home. So, and he decides that he's gonna like, you know, confess that he's had a crush. These are little moments that we did not know were gonna turn into something big. But that was the start of what became my life, okay? So I think part of the play is reminding us to always pay attention. You don't know when the little moments are going to lead to something pretty big. Okay? Does that make sense? Got it? All right, I'm going to end there, and we're going to take a 5-minute break, okay? Tomorrow we will finish up this act, and depending on where we are